You're listening to the 170th edition of the Bitachon podcast. We're studying together the passuk in Tehillim chapter 46, verse 2. Elikim lanu machaseh. God is to us a protection, va'oiz, and a strength. Ezra b'tzaros. He helps us in our difficulties. Nimtza ma'od. He's very much found. He's there very much. Rabbi Avram ben Ramuch says, Uperush va'oiz. What does it mean? And he is powerful. Hashem protects us. He gets us out of the hidden difficulties, which we spoke about. Sometimes Hashem even, saves us from things that we're not aware of. For example, I just heard recently from Rabbi Haber that one of the reasons that the Torah gives us the whole story with Bilam, we wouldn't have even known about it if the Torah didn't tell us. There was no interaction between Bilam, Balak, and the Jewish people. It was an attempted curse from outside. They were looking at them from the mountain. The Jewish people didn't even know about it, if not for the fact that Hashem would have told us. So that's a hidden problem. We didn't know about the problem. Hashem wants us to know that He protects us from problems that we don't even know about. Enemies who want to hurt us that we don't even find out about. So Hashem is our strength. He protects us from hidden problems. Ezra b'tzaros hagluyos v'yaduos. He helps us in the oppressive situations which we know about. Nimtza ma'od. He's very much found. What does this mean? Shemachadish oisais u'moifsim keneged hateva. We've spoken about the idea of Bitachon, right? Generally speaking, we're not supposed to be soimech al haneis. We're not supposed to depend on a miracle. A person doesn't put himself in a place of danger. But that doesn't mean that you can't depend on Hashem, who will indeed perform a miracle for you. We spoke about not long ago that a person shouldn't view a miracle as a miracle, but rather it's nature for Hashem. But Rabbi Avram ben Ramuch says Hashem is very much found means that God will help us. He'll sometimes use miracles to help us. Keneged hateva, keneged marachas elyonos latzilenu. Hashem indeed does do miracles. He does work against nature in order to save us. Zeu remez ma'od, and this is hinted to in the word ma'od. He's very much found. What does it mean very much? It means that He even will come and do miraculous things for us. Okay, it's important to know Hashem can do anything. Right? Hashem is not bound by the nature that He created. Now he brings the Malbim. L'kim lanu ratzalaymar b'tchaynenu al Hashem yesh shalish malis. The fact that we trust in Hashem has three advantages. Aleph shalom al machsavois. The first is that Hashem indeed is there for us. He's a protector. He is our strength. He gives us strength. Sheni shaloi levachu machsavois shalom. The second aspect is that not only does Hashem protect us in a time of peace, Yugam Esra B'tzara, Hashem also protects us and helps us in a time of difficulty. That's Be'ez Tzara, in the time of difficulty. I read Gam Ezra B'tzara. He also helps us in the problems. Shalish, Shein Tzarech L'Vaksheu Harbe L'Hamtim Al Ezrasei, Nimtza ma'od v'kar l'karov. It's not necessary for us to keep asking and keep asking and keep asking and keep asking. Sometimes we do have to, but ordinarily, that's not how Hashem works. God responds to us. He's very close by, so to speak. He's available for us. He's available to help us. And those who call out to Him, as the passuk says, we say it every day. Hashem is close to all those who call out to Him, to those who call Him in truth. Okay, so we have those three aspects. Hashem is a protector in times of peace, protector in times of difficulty, and He's close to us. He's ready to give us what we need to answer our prayers. Now, before I read the next thing, which is from the Rabbeinu Sadiga, I want to read the psukim in the context, because we're going to see here now that there's something really important that's going on in these verses that's talking about the future time, or our time maybe, halavai, the time of Mashiach, the time of Gog Umagog, of the major war before the Messianic age. The passuk says like this. It starts off, it's a song. So Of course, we know Tehillim was written by King David, but he also collated some songs from others into Tehillim, into Psalms. And here, this psalm is written by the children of Korach. Now, in the Torah tells us about Korach, that he rebelled against Moshe Rabbeinu. The Torah also tells us in this past week's parsha that Korach's sons didn't die. And our sages teach us that they fell down into the pit on the way to Gehenna, on the way to the fiery place where people go if they've sinned. And Korach and all of his possessions and all of those who accompanied him fell down. But the sons of Korach, they did tshuva at that moment. And because they did tshuva, they didn't fall all the way down, but rather Hashem made for them a ledge where they were able to stand without falling down into Gehenna, without falling into hell. And as a result of that, in that moment, in that place, they experienced Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration. And because they experienced that divine inspiration, they actually wrote these kapitlach of Tehillim, these chapters of Tehillim, starting with Mem Vav, number 46. I'm sorry, Mem Hey, no, Mem Daled. Yeah, Mem Daled, number 44. So, but this is one of them. There's a group of them, one after another. And they had incredible nevuos, which is very interesting, right? They were on their way to Gehenna, but they were stopped because of their tshuva. And then they had these nevuos and they climbed out. They were able to get out. But the passuk says, they had a nevuah about the future, about Mashiach, about the Messianic age, about the great war that would occur before. And that's our passuk. Right? It's important to know. What are we talking about here? We're talking about our times. We're talking about times of great danger, times of world war, times right before Mashiach, the Messianic age, arrives. And we're saying Hashem is our protector in times of difficulty. Al Kain, so I'd like to read to you from Tehillim, the rest of the chapter. Al Kain lo nira b'hamir aretz. When the earth is shaking, we won't be afraid of Moit harim b'lev yamim. When the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, right? Meaning all of the order of creation is shaking. Things are turning upside down. Yamu yechmeru meimov. The waters are churning. Yirashu harim. The mountains are shaking. B'gavos sela, shaking from Hashem's honor. Nar pelagi v'samchu ir lekim. I'm sorry, I didn't study this. I didn't look into all the Meforshim here on the psukim, so I'm going to say it as best as I can, the explanation here. But there's a river that its tributaries are causing the city of God, which is Jerusalem, to rejoice. Kadesh Mishkanei Elyon, the Holy One, who dwells upon high, right? Hashem is bringing down. The purpose of Gog Umagog is to bring about a revelation of Hashem in the world, the Jewish people, as His representatives. God will be in its midst. It will not fall. Eretz Yisrael is going to be the safest place to be during the War of Gog Umagog, as it was during World War II. Jews who were here were saved. God will help it at the moment which leaned towards the morning. Right? The morning, the great morning is Mashiach. The nations are shaking. The kingdoms are all falling. God makes His voice heard, and the land shakes. Hashem Tzavot Kois Imanu, says the passuk, says the Bnei Korach, as quoted by David HaMelech, King David. God, the Lord of hosts, is with us. Miskav Lanu. He's a protector for us. Elokei Yaakov, the God of Jacob, Selah. Go out and see the amazing works of God. That God placed desolation in the land. He brings about an end to war, or He causes wars to happen till the ends of the earth. It sounds like He's stopping the wars. There's a war, Hashem breaks the war, He destroys all of the implements of war. All of the chariots will be burned by fire. Let go, and you will know that Hashem I am God. Arum b'goyim, arum ba'aretz. I will be raised up over the nations, raised up over the earth. Hashem tzavakos imanu. Again, he repeats. Hashem tzavakos, God, Lord of hosts, is with us. Miskavlanu, protector for us. L'keach of Selah, the God of Jacob, Selah. Absolutely beautiful prophecy. Prophecy of the children of Korach. Amazing thing. Now let's study this passuk in a different light. Talking about the future time. Talking about the time we're in now. Talking about times of upheaval. Yoshiru Mibnei Korach, says the Rabbeinu Tzadi Goin. The children of Korach, they sang this. Alashkachosei hatmidis. Shmisboinin yir oisei tamid. When a person contemplates, looks for God's divine hashgacha, his divine hand in a person's life, you'll see it if you look for it. You have to contemplate, you have to look for it. And especially in a time of difficulty. The Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael are challenged, surrounded by nations who wish to destroy us. The Jewish people throughout the world are challenged by pro-evil forces. But you have to look for Hashem, v'liba b'tuach Hashem, and your heart needs to be certain in God. Confidence. Okay, we don't need to be afraid even on that day. About which the prophet tells us, the fish of the sea will shake in front of me, and the birds of the heavens, and the creepy crawly animals upon the earth. Every single wall will fall down to the earth. Hashem Tzavakos, one of the passuk says in Ezekiel, a similar kind of idea. All of the shaking of the world, all of the difficulties that the world goes through, the World War I, the World War II, and ultimately the third Gog Umagog war that the Chavetz Chaim spoke about. All of these things are in order to bring about the oneness of Hashem's name. For the Jewish people ultimately to ascend, to become the leader of the nations. For all the other nations to lose their leadership status. But it's expressed as Hashem remains alone on that day. Hashem is with us. How do we merit this? How do we merit to be the ones who remain on the last day alongside Hashem, as it were? It's because we contemplate and we recognize the work of Hashem, Asher Sam Shemes Ba'aretz, that He puts His name in the earth. Means He allows us to recognize, right, a name. Some Shemes here is a written name, maybe we could say. You have to look for the name. You have to, if you want to read someone's name, you have to look for it. You have to read it. You have to put the letters together. Hashem puts His name everywhere, but we have to look for, we have to contemplate. He's the one who protects us, the God of Jacob. Okay, so this is incredibly powerful. Okay, so Hashem is always available for us in times of difficulty. That's what we spoke about previously. But now we're saying that He's also there for us. If we've been searching for Him, if we've been looking for Him, if we've been contemplating His presence in our lives before the times of challenge, He'll be there with us in the times of challenge, and we will get to the other side and merit to see His oneness, to be manifestations of God's oneness. Now He brings Rabbi Yosef ibn Yichya. God who is with us, He is ours in a time of difficulty. He protects us to save us from our enemies. He is our strength. To destroy our enemies from upon the earth. Right? Who gave us the wisdom, the understanding, and the incredible weaponry to be able to destroy Hamas, our enemies, expressions of evil, with only a minimal destruction towards civilians. If we could talk about civilians. It's Hashem. He gives us the strength. Hashem will be the one who gives us power, gives us strength, helps us in our difficulties, and in the birth pangs of the Messiah, and in the War of Gog Umagog, to save us from the hands of our enemies. Right? We need Hashem to protect us. There's so many who wish to destroy us, and they've amassed incredible amounts of weaponry. In the future time, says Rabbi Yosef ibn Yechia, we will need an incredible amount of help. Utamidi, and a constant help. The Devar Halaz, for this matter. It's really unnatural for a small nation, the Jewish people, to be able to fight back against the combined force of untold tens of millions of people. We're a small nation, 7 million Jews in Israel. How will we, the few, be able to fight back against the many? It's unnatural. How can a small, weak group of people succeed and win against such a great amount of people? Pasuk says, the next pasuk says, we will not be afraid as the land, as the earth shakes, as things are switched. The word hamir means to switch. Since these great difficulties, because we're in the face of these great difficulties, God will help us and He will be very available to us. So therefore, we don't need to be afraid or worry when the master of the land is changing. And he brings here in the note, I'm not going to read it inside. Maybe I should read it inside. He says, until now, we have been for 2,000 years under the boot of the nations of the world. But as we break free from our shivud, from our dependence, from our being slaves to the nations of the world, as we break that through, it's going to flip. The nations of the world will be, so to speak, under our dominion. The Jewish people will be the leaders of the world. When things switch without a very clear means from one way of existence to another way, until now, who's been in charge? The nations of the world. It's going to switch to being the Jewish nation. So that's a huge transformation. It's a very difficult thing to accomplish. As a result of that, that's why we're going to experience, we have experienced the last 100 years, and we're in for something great imminently. That's why it has to be through these great upheavals in the entire world. I'd like to read to you from Drash's Kol Ben Levi. He says like this: in regards to this time, in regards to the times of Gog Umagog, the final war, the times of upheaval, King David says, it starts off, the first verse which we read, is to the conductor, a song by the sons of Korach, Al Alomis Shir. Alomis Shir is some kind of instrument of song. The Kli Shir is the Nikra Alomis. This instrument is called Alomis. Ushmoy Moira. But what is the word Alomis? It also has an indication of an idea of something hidden. In regards to those hidden things, we say that God is for us a protector in those hidden things. He is our strength in every generation. God is our protector and helper. He's very much found. When difficulties get greater, when there's more oppression of the Jewish people, we'll find God's divine assistance even more. I won't be afraid, therefore, when the land is switching. When the owners of the land, so to speak, the leaders of the world change, we don't need. He's talking about it in terms of, it goes from one empire to another empire who's in charge. I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to be afraid that things are going to change. I'm not going to have my parnasa. I'd like to read to you from the note here before we finish. This is a continuation of the Drashas Kol Ben Levi. It seems to me, he says, before the Messiah arrives, there will be many new things. The way that people did business until now, it will completely be transformed. We'll see that it's talking 100 years ago, whoever wrote the Sefer. Everything's going to change. I'm adding, there'll be online marketing, there'll be just a different way of doing business and making money. He's talking about, obviously, 100 years ago, but 200 years ago, they started to have this brand new idea of trains that have transformed the idea of business, what business looks like. Right? The result will be that the Jewish people, as happened until recently, the Jewish people were in a very weak state. We were very poor. We weren't part of the program. We were pushed out of anywhere where there was business and money. Why do people leave Torah in his time? And I say, why do people not come to Israel yet? Heaven forbid. Because they say, I need to have parnas, I need to have livelihood. But he says that's a mistake. Because the person is just listening to his evil inclination, he's not contemplating properly. The Jewish person needs to think and contemplate that Hashem is always protecting and giving livelihood to the people of Israel. Naturally, we shouldn't have had any food. We shouldn't have been able to be sustained in all generations. We need to know that our survival as a nation physically is only possible because Hashem raised us up above nature. Despite all of the gezeres, the decrees upon the Jewish people that we can't do this business, that business, etc., we still survived. And a sign of this fact, Hatzinsenes Haman, is the flask of the mun. The mun was the manna that the Jewish people ate in the midbar, in the wilderness. That flask remained, and it still remains to this day. It still exists. It's still there. It still exists, and it's to remind us of the fact that nothing has changed. Just like in the wilderness, Hashem miraculously caused us to survive, gave us sustenance for 40 years with the manna. Hashem continued throughout the following ensuing 3,300 years till this very day. Our survival is a continuing miracle, and we know that we can always depend on Hashem to help us and protect us. When we trust in Him and contemplate our connection to Him and know that He's always with us. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again next time.